This is music, and this is Apocalypse. So after having done a couple of updates / haul videos, I figured I would try to do something with some more substance to it. Don't get me wrong, I love watching haul and update videos because it's in those videos that I am often introduced to a whole bunch of new bands and albums that I need to check out. So I love haul videos, but I also love videos where people highlight individual items from their collections and talk about them. So I figured that's what I would like to try because it gives me a good opportunity to go back and listen to, get reacquainted with, appreciate anew items from my collection. It also gives me an opportunity to listen to some items from my collection that I might not be that familiar with. And of course, it's an opportunity to listen to items from my collection that I haven't listened to yet. And I figured, why not start with the Apocalypse, right? I mean, I think the Apocalypse is a great place to begin because, it can only go downhill from basically the end of the world. So this album, Apocalypse by Apocalypse, the band is also called Apocalypse. It's a Swiss band, and this album came out in 1988. And the version I have here is the Thrash Records version. There's another version that I think was released on, I think it's Tone Deaf Records, but I can't be sure, with a different artwork. So Apocalypse are typically classified as a speed metal band. And I got into metal in the late 80s, early 90s. So for me, it started with Iron Maiden for me. I had heard Twisted Sister even earlier, and I liked it, but it was Iron Maiden that clicked with me and got me into metal music. And I started out like a lot of people did back then, exploring traditional heavy metal, hard rock, some glam metal. So it was Iron Maiden and then AC/DC, and those two are still my favorite bands. And then, I went into, like as I said, hard rock, glam metal, so some Guns N' Roses, Bon Jovi, New Jersey, which I think is a good album. I still enjoy that album. Gorky Park. I don't know how many of you guys know this, but the band Disneyland After Dark, later DAD, a Danish band. So, traditional metal. And by the time when I was ready to progress onto music that's heavier than just traditional heavy metal, the speed metal boat had sailed, right? Because speed metal was like in the mid 80s, right? Early to mid 80s, and a couple of bands in the late 80s. But so for me, it was power metal, US power metal, Vicious Rumors and things like that. And late 80s, early 90s, European power metal, Blind Guardian, Halloween primarily, which did have some traces of speed metal on their early releases. You might even argue that the Walls of Jericho and that Follow the Blind and Battalions of Fear are speed metal albums. But that would be my only exposure to speed metal back then. So I went from that to thrash metal and then into more extreme metal. So that means that I have an entire universe of speed metal to explore that, as I said, that boat had sailed when I was ready to progress beyond traditional metal. So this album here, Apocalypse, I picked it up in a Quartz web shop, and I was looking for speed metal albums to add to my collection and to check out, because as I said, I never got on that boat to begin with, and I figured, you know, I want to check it out. It's an important part of metal history, and it's kind of like a precursor in many ways to thrash metal. So I saw this one. It was classified as speed metal in the web shop, and obviously I was, you know, attracted to the cover artwork. I mean, this is the most metal thing you'll ever see, right? This is truly awesome cover artwork. The Four Horsemen, perfect for a band and a release called Apocalypse. The artist is JC Torres, so, you know, horns and thumbs up to JC Torres for this awesome piece of artwork. I was also intrigued by the logo, because the logo looks kind of like what you would see with a modern retro thrash metal band. So, and this is from 1988. So I thought that was pretty cool. This is what the back looks like, right? Also awesome, really awesome. And the other version that's out there, the maybe Tone Deaf Records, as I said, I don't remember, has more like a blue color theme, blue black, and the artwork is more along the lines of this. It has a different logo too, but equally thrashy logo, but more like a bat-oriented piece of artwork. So as I said, this is from 1988. It was released on Crash Records. It's considered to be speed metal. So again, front cover, awesome. Back cover, equally awesome. The version I got came with, it was in pretty good condition. As you can see, the cover's in pretty good condition. It came just with this inner sleeve, which is the bat from the back, right? Here it says, oops, Figo. So I guess whoever Figo is sort of drew this, and then JC Torres integrated it into the jacket cover artwork. This is awesome too. I love this, right? I mean, I'm glad that this was still in, because I bought it secondhand, of course, you know, and I'm glad it was in, and I'm glad it was in good condition. Not much to the back, right? Just some you know, the obligatory thank you texts, and mail address for information and merchandising, you know, back then. The record itself, just black vinyl, and looks like this, right? So nothing special, you know, except from black vinyl being, I like colored vinyl, and I like splattered vinyl, and I'll take it if I can get it. But black vinyl, you know, old school, you know, beautiful black vinyl, but, you know, not that much to it. So it's out on Crash Records, and it's from 1988, as I mentioned a couple of times. Swiss band, considered speed metal. There are 9 tracks on this album. 9 tracks, 2 tracks on side 4 tracks on side A, or as it says here, I don't know if you can see it. It says, it's a bit difficult, it's a bit grainy, but it says Phase 1 and Phase 2. I kind of like that touch. So 9 tracks. Yeah. So the first track is called Digital Life, and it's, in my opinion, it's more of a thrash metal track than a speed metal track, to be honest. It's aggressive, it's up-tempo, it has some, you know, thrash-styled, I would say almost like maybe American thrash-styled, inspired riffage. Some awesome riffage, to be honest. As I said, it's aggressive. There is a really cool bridge, and it starts out with almost like Slayer-like, a Slayer-like breakdown with those sort of signature guitar harmonies that Slayer sort of they became kind of their trademark, right? Sort of almost like nightmare-inducing guitar harmonies, and I would say the bridge is actually pretty cool. There's a very cool instrumental bridge, awesome riffage, and you know, a great song. Might be my favorite song on the album. And I like the ending is humorous. It ends off like on a mock blues ending, so that's kind of fun. Digital Life, great chorus as well, scream along chorus. The next one is A Tale of a Nightmare, and this is more of a, I wouldn't say mid-paced, kind of like somewhere between a mid-paced and up-tempo, I would say. And it has more of a galloping feel to it. It's a sort of like a mix between thrash and traditional metal. So you might say this is perhaps where there's a tiny bit of speed metal throwing or showing its face here. And I would say that's another very good song. And the bridge, I think, is awesome. It's almost like prog leaning to the bridge. Sound kind of like mellows down a bit. It doesn't get poppy or anything, but it mellows down a bit. Becomes a bit more, I would say, expressive in a way. But almost prog leaning bridge. Another great song here. Then you have Crash. Right? There's a song called Crash, and this is out on Crash Records. So obviously it's probably their own label. So Crash is an instrumental, and it's thrashy, I would say, a thrash instrumental. And they're almost like, at least in the beginning, almost like some crossover elements, like some bit of hardcore sneaking in there, which I don't know if they were inspired by that, or maybe the band was inspired by bands that were inspired by, you know, crossover and hardcore bands. That's just a tiny bit of that. But it works great. And you also have some more power metal-y elements. You got some, I would say there's a bit of a section that has a bit of a Running Wild vibe. You know, when Running Wild, after they had sort of switched from the more satanic, kind of like Judas Priest music styled era into the pirate, more power metal era. Which I like. I like the pirate era, but there's like a section that has like a vibe that is more reminiscent of Running Wild. It works great, actually. You know, it fits great. You know, fits into the song. And there's even like there's a bass solo, and it's actually a pretty good bass solo, I would say. So Crash, a great instrumental. For sure. And then you have another song, and I am gonna drop the F-bomb because it is in the title. Also, in my day job, which I love my day job. I'm a linguist, so I study, research language, the way people use it. So I'm not gonna censure swear words if there are swear words in titles and in lyrics, because they're part of language. But now you're warned. The next song is called Fuck Off and Die. And you might think, okay, so that's gonna be like a punky song, maybe a Motorhead sort of leaning song. It's not. I mean, it caught me by surprise. It's a power metal song, melodic power metal song, speed metal. This is probably one of the most speed metal-y songs on the album as well. So it's called Fuck Off and Die, but it's very melodic. There is some great riffage again in this song. Especially in the chorus, which is catchy and very sing-along friendly. I mean, who doesn't want to sing along to Fuck Off and Die, right? So great chorus. There's some Halloween-ish guitar stuff going on here, I think. So Halloween vibe, and there's another humorous ending, I think, here. So Apocalypse obviously embrace humor. Right, so that is, you know, side A, great side A, very thrash leaning, I would say, much more aggressive than you might think, and full of surprises. Pretty, I would say, pretty sophisticated thrash metal music without being technical or anything like that. The first track on side B is called The Night Before. And this one is very interesting too, because that has almost like a folk metal feel, right? Like, I wouldn't say, probably not Viking metal, but kind of folk metal. It reminded me a bit of Slafafeg, weird, the Lord Weirdstuff fake. I don't know how to pronounce it, but that, American folk metal, traditional folk metal band, without being like identical to that or rip-off of that or whatever, but it reminded me, I get some similar vibes, right? It's the main riff is heavy, I would say heavier, and pretty cool, I think. Very melodic too, and almost like a creepy feel to some of this in this song, I would say. Especially in the verse, it has kind of like a creepy, scary feel, which is great. And there are lots of interesting tempo changes, and also like changes in sort of like the mood and maybe the emotions evoked in this song. So a bit of a musical journey, I would say. It's great. It's followed by a track called Apocalypse. So Apocalypse on the album Apocalypse by the band Apocalypse. Why not? And it's a mid-tempo thrasher. It has some prog vibes, I would say. It's a bit of a musical journey again. It has some great twin guitar licks, twin guitar melodies. I love twin guitar, harmony guitar melodies, obviously, right? Iron Maiden got me into metal, so obviously that's gonna be one of my favorite parts of metal music. It starts out, like very mellow, very melodic, clean guitars, and then it jumps into being a metal song. There's some clean guitars overlaid on distorted guitars in the chorus, which kind of gave me a later, I would say, Fate's Warning feel, right? So obviously some prog leanings here without it being prog metal at all. Back to the Fire, an old school traditional heavy metal song, Judas Priest riffage, but with lots of tempo changes, and there are even some odd time signatures. So again, some progressive leanings. So that's Back to the Fire. Dark Sword is a brilliant instrumental. It's really a musical journey. Lots of variation. Lots of melody too. Great stuff. And the last song, Cemetery, is more of a power thrash song. There might be some speed metal influences as well. There's a cool atmospheric breakdown in the bridge section. And I would say it's a very nice way to close off a great album. There's even like some groove to this last song as well. So I would say overall, I don't know if I would call this a masterpiece, but it's a great album. As I said, yes, there's some speed metal elements on it, but to be honest, I think it's more of a thrash metal album, and it's a great album in my opinion. There's some great instrumental sections. I mean, these guys knew what they were doing when they recorded this. Awesome instrumental sections. The vocals are serviceable. They work. They're more on the shouty side. There's also some clean singing, but we're not dealing with a Jeff Tate or Bruce Dickinson or anything like that. But it works, right? Maybe they're a bit reminiscent, but not as good as Hansi from Blind Guardian. I think it's Hansi, right, from Blind Guardian. There's some awesome riffage in this album. That's one of the main strengths, the riffage and the instrumental section generally. Some nice guitar work, great leads, some twin leads. The production is actually pretty good. I would say very good for an 80s metal release. It's not drowned in reverb, and it doesn't have this thin, tinny sound that a lot of 80s metal albums unfortunately did have. And if we're talking about a metal release from 88, we always have to talk about the bass. It's audible, you can hear it, and it does. The bass player does some great stuff. The bass player is Bourreau. Sorry for butchering French. Great bass work, great production, and I would say side A is more thrashy, more speed metally, more heavy, more aggressive. Side B is a bit more proggy, not prog metal. We're not all the way into prog metal territory, and I don't know if it's far-fetched to say that there's a bit of a Merciful Fate vibe to it, but it's a bit more sophisticated, more complex compositions, more odd time signatures and tempo changes and so on and so forth. But yeah, Apocalypse by Apocalypse from 1988, a great album. I would say, if you are a thrash metal fan, if you're a speed metal fan, if you like up-tempo traditional metal, if you like metal that takes you on a bit of a musical journey, if you don't have a problem with vocals that are not air raid siren-y or not like very technical, this one belongs in your collection. This belongs in, I would say, any thrash or speed metal collection. Apocalypse by Apocalypse. So I hope you enjoyed this video where I went into a bit more detail, talked a bit more about an item from my collection, how I got it, why I got it, the songs on it, and the physical aspect of it, the cover artwork, and so on and so forth. So I hope you enjoyed this type of video, because I'm going to be making more of these. I'll be making haul videos and updates and all that fun stuff as well, because I love watching those. But thanks for watching. As I said, get this album if you like thrash speed metal. Thanks for watching.